Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you guys for tuning into Code Black Facts. You guys know I love you and I do appreciate you. So I want to talk about Kanye West, the white man. Okay. Yeah, we gonna go there. Kanye recently did an interview with the Piers Morgan show. And basically it was like an hour-long interview, which is what we're gonna go over. I'm gonna be reacting basically to some of the things that Kanye is saying and also breaking down why I believe Kanye wants to be a non-black man. And he a roundabout a way kind of said it, but you just kind of have to read between the lines. And I get it. Some people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, oh, it's not that serious. It's not that deep. Kanye's doing this. He's doing that. He's speaking truth. He's doing this. Giving a bunch of basically just giving a bunch of reasons why, Kanye is behaving and acting and saying some of the things that he's saying. But I see through it all. You got some people blaming it on mental illness. You have others blaming it on, his mother passing. You have others blaming it on, possible, you know, pills and things like that that can have a chemical reaction in his brain. I mean, I've heard it all. And for me, none of those, I mean, I'm not going to say none of them, but I'm going to say it's a combination of probably a lot of different things. All right. And we don't know what these things are because none of us live in the same home. The only people or persons that have actually lived in the home with this man is his ex-wife, and she's kind of spoken out about in the past, of course, about helping him with his mental illness and things like that. But being that his wife, his ex-wife is Kim Kardashian, we don't know whether to believe that or not because we know that her and or her family are very capable of making up stuff for TV, for cameras, for attention, for whatever. So we don't know how factual and exactual, what Kim or anyone in her family, her mother, any of her sisters, we just don't know. We can all go off of what we see, the behaviors and things like that, which in the medical field, in the psychology field, that's pretty much what you can, take into consideration. Again, I said consideration. So I did not say that the behavior is a totality. I said when diagnosing, you take those things into consideration. All right. Because nobody's going to ever really just tell the truth. Sometimes you got to go in deep or listen to what they're saying or look at the behaviors and kind of make an educated guess or determination. All right. So let's jump into this interview. It's probably going to be parts 1, 2, and or 3 because like I said, this interview is an hour long and I am not going to keep you guys for that long. So, let's get in it. All right? Let me put the disclaimer up first because I am going to be going over this interview and I don't want any problems from YouTube or whomever, all right? So, this is the copyright disclaimer and let's get popping.
My first question for you, I guess, is an obvious one. What do you hope to achieve from our conversation?
That right there, being uncensored. In American media, it's very censored. It feels like an episode of Black Mirror a lot of times. So I've put myself across the line, the point of no return, saying, "Hey, I know they're gonna say whatever they want about me. When I bring up the truth, they're gonna say you didn't get enough sleep. It's because of your health. They're going to call me names for my truth, but these experiences that I'm telling you about are factually things that I've went through and things that I refuse to keep going through and things that I'm not going to let my children go through and things that not going to let my peers go through." No pun.
All right, so let me stop it there. So Kanye truly thinks that he is speaking his quote unquote truth. He's speaking the truth. And many times, us as human beings, we many times can go through different things in life called life experiences. And for us, we think that because we went through it, that it is the overall truth of the world, right? And unfortunately, that's just not how things work. Unfortunately, we all go through our different journeys in life. We all have our different walks through life, and we all have what we call our truth. And for his reality, right, the things that he's saying are very true. And this is the thing, like, because he's been through these things and because he's experienced these things firsthand, like, in his mind, in his psyche, he truly, like, from the core of him, believe that it is true. Now that does not mean that, it's all or nothing. That doesn't mean that every single thing is true that he's saying. And neither does it mean that everything that he's saying is not true. It could be pieces of, like, what I would say general truths, right? For example, you throw something up in the air, it is a general fact and a general truth that what you throw in the air is going to come down. Now, there are cases where that does not happen. But in those minority cases, where that does not happen, that does not make the minority of those cases the overall truth. I hope you guys catch that because it wasn't that difficult to catch. All right, let's continue.
Well, look, we are most certainly uncensored on this show, yeah. And I want to give you the time and the platform to really explain yourself, because I think that sometimes sound bites about people, perhaps taken out of context, sometimes can create a very distorted view of what a person really thinks. What do you think, looking back over the last few weeks in particular, what do you think have been the biggest misconceptions about you?
Well, I think there's a left agenda to silence anyone that goes against the agenda. Let's go back to Trump running for office back in 2015. Everyone that was around me in my industry, in the entertainment industry, told me that my life would be over. I would be on the wrong side of history. I've even had threats to my life for wearing the Trump hat. And it even ended up in, destroying my family, and also making it where I have to raise my children differently because I actually am a person that's classified as Black. I classify myself as Jew, but a person that's classified that had been given that title in America as Black, in America, that I'm supposed to stay in a block of a vote. You never heard the term white vote. So why is there a term Black vote? How is that okay? It sounds just as racist as a Black drinking fountain. And
all right, so let me stop it there. So first, let's talk about him basically blaming the way that his relationship went on how that messed up his family. And it's not that. It's not that. It's you. It's you and the things that you have done, right? And or the other person in that union have done that messed that up. See, this is the thing. Like, nobody can mess up nothing, or no one can mess up anything unless you allow it. And especially when you are in your 40s and headed towards 50. Like, I get it if you're 19 or 20, you don't have the life experiences, you don't know no better, you're kind of learning as you go. But no, if you have the person you love pleading and begging you to stop doing things that harm them, stop doing things that hurt them, and you continue to do that, or you do not get help, then that falls on you. Now, can you say that was a factor? Absolutely. There are always factors in the overall outcome, right? There are very few things in this world where, it's just one thing that made that happen. It's a combination of things. And so, this is part of the not taking responsibility tag that I don't like, that I say we all as humans, sometimes we do. Like it's hard for us to sometimes take responsibility when we mess up, when we drop the ball. And I don't know, none of us knows, right? We can only go off of what we see posted. We can only go off of what we hear people say, but we've heard Kanye talk about his his failed marriage. We've heard Kanye talk about his mistakes and the things that he regret. We've heard, Kim say certain things as well. And so we don't know fully, only those two know. But one thing that we do know is that, Kanye has been having these outbursts of, just different things for a long time. This is not new to us. All right. I would say it started when, he did the whole MTV Live Bush don't like black people thing during the Katrina thing, right? I would say it started then. Because after that, then the whole Taylor Swift thing happened. And then after that, it was, the him and Kim, right? Kim was still married. She was a married woman going through a divorce. Her and him got together. He totally disregarded that. But then when it was his turn to be the married man and she's with another dude while they're still married, but they're going through a divorce, when it was his turn, it was an issue. But that's how they started, though. See, this is the thing. One thing about karma gonna always slap you back. It may take some weeks, it may take some years, but I'm a prime believer in karma. Like I believe what you put out into the universe, you get back. That's called energy. That's called, vibes, right? You put that out into the universe, you're going to get it back. That's the same thing as karma. In the church, if you're a Christian, right? It's the same thing as saying um what's the saying in the church? What is it? Do unto others as you will have them do unto you. That's karma. That's that. So no matter how you twist it, it basically all comes out to the same thing, right? But he blamed, you know, the whole thing with the lefters, right? We all know what lefters mean. The lefters is aka term for the Democrats, right? And then he goes on to talk about, the whole support of Trump. We all know that he was a supporter of Trump, right? And then he goes on to talk about, how that interrupted his marriage and kind of, messed up his marriage, which we know that is not true, but we're going to continue. Then he goes into oh, well, the black vote, right? Oh, I don't see, that's kind of racist within itself. Why is there a black vote? Let me tell you why, Kanye. Because in this country, once upon a time, black people were kept from voting. Black people as a population could not vote. That is a very well known fact. At one time, for a very long time, we could not vote. So, because we as a population were kept out of voting, the term black vote was invented. We did not invent that term. We did not invent the circumstances surrounding that, neither. Okay? That was invented by non black people. So, as a response to that, black people as a group got together, came together, marched, was busted upside the head. I mean, we all know the story, right? Called the Civil Rights Act, right? We know the story. I don't need to go into the history lesson of it. But because as a response, black people came together and said, okay, well, we want to be able to vote. We want to be allowed to vote. We should be allowed to vote. And hence, the black vote term continued. So that's the reason. The reason is not that we put ourselves in that population of people that could not vote and we were a block of voters. We didn't do that to ourselves. That was done to us. We responded to it. All right. So if you want to talk about why the term exists and why there's a such thing as black vote, you need to go over there to the people whom you aspire to be. Go over there and ask them. All right. Let's continue.
My dad, called me and said, the thing that the left fear about Ye or makes me the most dangerous is I'm rich. And that's the point. Tupac told me back in the days, you got to get your money right, and then you go to war. So I'm going to war. I don't have endless resources. I only have like maybe, honestly, only maybe $120 million in my account. But what I'm not going to let happen is I'm not going to let my kids take over Yeezy someday and have a boardroom telling them what to do and talking behind their back. I'm not going to let that happen to my children. So I have to fight right now.
Let me stop it there. So I do want, because I didn't address this. So Kanye also talked about how they, I ain't gonna say we. Well, I'll say we. Everybody does it. We all do it. But this was something that was here before I was born. Classification of people, right? I have a video on this page right here, my YouTube channel, where I break down the history of classifying people, right? And I break down we how the term black, or what the terms that were before black, mulatto, things like that, how those classifications, they did not come from us. All right. So, when we talk about classifying people, again, these are terms that we did not give ourselves. These are terms that were given, and we just kind of like went with it because look, for what I would say over 100 years, the term black people have been around, which means, as far as I know, Kanye is not 100 years old, and neither am I. So these terms were here before us, and these terms were not created by us. And so it's a generalized term. Yes, we can get technical and say, oh, well, technically we're all brown. Yes, we can get technical and say, well, technically we were born in this region, so therefore we are these people, because way, way back in the day, that's how people were classified, by where in which you were born. If you were born in a certain region of the world, that's what you were. You were the name of that region. All right. And then over time, as people begin to take over and take and kill and steal for resources, instead of giving up their, if you're group one and you're going over into region number two, and you're going to kill the region number two and take their resources, you're not going to then call yourself that region. You're going to keep your own name in your own region, and then you're going to basically rename the region. And that's what happened. And that's what still continues to happen. So you really got to know the history to know these things. And for Kanye, and look, this is the thing, Kanye can consider himself a Jew all he wants to, right? I've never heard him say that he was or considers himself to be, which doesn't mean that this is something that is coming out genuinely. I think that his recent comments about, the Jews and things like that, what he said recently has backfired and is affecting him. And I think now he wants to say, oh, well, now, I'm one of y'all. I was talking about myself. No, you were not. Let's just be real and honest. He was not. He's a liar. If he's saying that he is, he was not. Kanye has repeatedly called himself a black man. Kanye has repeatedly used the quote unquote black card against his wife, against her family, against other people. So he's classified himself as a black man, which we have all done at some point in our lives, because again, that is a general term. Now, I don't care, at this point, I don't care. I used to care, because at one point I used to be under the assumption that when you didn't classify yourself as a certain term or a certain way, that was you trying to basically distance yourself, or trying to, make a separation. And for me, that meant that, like, if you didn't want to say that you were black, then that means that you didn't want to be black. And I know now that there are a lot of factors that go into that. And I think with Kanye West, that is a factor. Number one, I truly don't think Kanye wants to be classified as black. I mean, he basically said it. And number two, I don't think Kanye overall generally wants to be black. I think that Kanye sees that there are more benefits to being a white man. And he's going to talk about how he, you know, basically how he empathizes with the white straight man in this particular video. He's going to talk about that. And I think that that's because he wants to be. And in his mind, he sees that there are more benefits from that, that you get more benefits. He's already got the money, right? He's considered a billionaire. So he's already got the money. He just doesn't have the skin tone. That's what he's missing. He had the woman, the white woman, right? He just didn't have the skin tone. In his mind, I'm talking about his mind. All right? Let's continue.
Other powerful icons in black music, when they were at the top of the game, they didn't fight at that point. They were too afraid of losing whatever they had. So by the time they wanted to make a difference, by the time Bill Cosby wanted to buy NBC, he didn't have the Cosby show at that time to be able to stand up when they wanted to literally throw him in jail, where they actually did throw him in jail. So people have to understand just the bravery. There's so many people everywhere. I know everyone can relate to being afraid to say what you're going to feel because you feel like you're going to lose something. So whether you agree with me or not, I believe people are going to feel the fact that someone is brave enough to say something. Every day I do 5 things that people have been historically killed for.
All right, so let me talk about that. All right, so, you know, bravery. My first question would be, who is Kanye fighting for? Who? Who? I don't even think he knows. One minute is his children, the next minute is his family, the next minute is black people, black dads, the next minute, I mean, like who? Because I can tell you right now that one thing that anybody would tell you, any person who has anything of any type of smarts or prestige or whatever, right? Anybody will tell you this. One thing that has to follow your words is action. So if you're saying that you're fighting for black people, but your actions does not show that, hmm. If you're saying that you're fighting for your family, but your actions does not show that, or that when your actions do sort of show it, there's something malicious behind it. That's not really fighting for your family or your children because there's a malicious intent. There's the intent to, get back at somebody by using your children. And that's not fighting for your children. That's not fighting for your family. That's not fighting for your people, quote unquote, black people. So who is Kanye really fighting for? Because if he's saying that he's fighting for the Jews, right? He considers himself a Jew, right? How are your actions backing that up? If you're saying that you're fighting for black people, how are your actions backing that up? Because I don't see black people around you, Kanye. I don't see I just don't. He can say, oh, well, because they're scared. He used Bill Cosby as an example. But this is the thing. You gotta know something about, I would say, and look, let me put this out here. I am by all means not, speaking for Cosby. I believe Cosby has enough money and enough support from people for others to do that. I don't think that I should or could do that. No, no. But what I will say with him using Bill Cosby as an example, you gotta know how to, you gotta know how to be how to delegate, not delegate. What's the word? Um, how to I cannot think of the word. I can't think of the word. But you gotta know, how to move, right? You gotta know when to move. And you gotta have um the right mindset and perspective behind you when you do that. And I think that, if you want to speak your truth, speak your truth. If you want to speak up for people or your people or a group of people that you think are being or are not receiving freedom and equality, freedom of speech, because now he's like a freedom of speech advocate. Now he wants to, be the poster child for being able to say what other people are afraid to say. And it's like, dude, you've been in a game a very long time and you yourself have not been doing that. you know. And if you really want to get technical, like the very family that you were married into, there's a lot to be said there. That's all, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna just leave it at that. But this is hogwash. If you ask me, it's all hogwash. I don't know what the agenda or the intent is. I don't know who he's speaking to or who Kanye has around him. But you really need to be smart in how you move. And you don't, the first of all, let's talk about, money. Let's talk about the very group that Kanye is in and belongs to is by way of non-black people, right? Kanye is being allowed to be in that group, very small group of people who are in, it's a very, very small group of people who are millionaires. It's an even smaller group of people who are billionaires, who have gotten to billionaire status, who even have the resources. Kanye has billionaire people phone numbers in his phone. Like, he could literally call up probably Jeff Bezos and, what's the Tesla guy? The Tesla guy, and call them up, like, and straight up have a conversation. Didn't we see not too long ago him hanging out? I mean, Kanye hangs out with billionaires, right? So, again, that is a group that you have to be allowed into, that you have to be invited into, right? That you have to get to a certain status financially and otherwise to even become a part of. And the fact that he's even in that group, I'm gonna tell you right now, he's in that group because it was allowed. Because the contacts, the resources, the people that he partnered with have allowed him to. So let's get that very straight. All right. All right. So let's continue. I'm gonna continue for a few more because I don't want this to be too long, and then I'm gonna stop it, and then I'm going to probably come back for part 2. So here goes. Uh-oh.
Every day. And it's just, I want to prove, first of all, I am Jew also. The 12 lost tribes of Hebrew. Do the math. Do your research on it. We have got our culture ripped from us and then told we were just simply void of color, which is another definition for black. But if we knew we were a culture and knew we were a people, the way the Jewish people know, then we wouldn't abort ourselves. We wouldn't shoot each other dead in the streets and then rap about it. We wouldn't brag about, having sex with each other's wives. We would keep our families together and we would do business together. The most dangerous most dangerous place for a black person in America is actually in our mother's stomachs, because 50% of black deaths a year in America is abortion currently. I mean, I can keep going, but.
And might I add, another part of murders that happen are murders against black pregnant women. See, you say part of it, but then you don't say the rest of it, and that's my problem. Black women, pregnant black women, are the highest one of the highest murdered groups. There is no other group of pregnant women that are murdered and killed like black women. Black women are at the top of that statistic. So yes, black children are aborted at high rates, and so before the abortion could even be in the talks, black women black pregnant women are also murdered at extremely high rates. And guess who they're murdered by? The men that they are pregnant by. A good portion of those men being black men, because everybody knows black women, more than any other group date within. More than date, marry, sex, all of it within. More than any other group of women. All right? So we can't leave that out. We can't leave out also the other part of that where Black women are killed and murdered at extremely high rates by their partners as well. Every 5.5 hours or something like that. So we really need to tell, like, if you're going to talk about Black abortions, you got to talk about like murders, right? He's talking about the murder rate, us killing ourselves. And then as a result of that, he named abortion being one of those murders, right? But we got to name all of them. We also have to go into Black men killing themselves. All right? We got to go into that. I mean, if you're going to talk about Black people being murdered, knowing who we are, being void of our identity, let's talk about it all. Let's talk about it all, because all of it is relevant when we're talking about Black lives. All of it's relevant. All of it's relevant. So earlier I talked about those factors. I talked about those different factors. Well, these are the factors. There are many factors that go into Black life. Many. It's not just one. It's not just two. It's not just three. Oh, let's talk about the jail system, the prison system. Let's talk about that as well. Right? Let's talk about that as well. That's a factor in it all as well. But I guarantee you he won't talk about that. You know why? Because that does not meet in his mind, in his brain. It doesn't help with the narrative that he lives by, the story that he plays in his brain. Now, what Kanye said is not completely is not false. All right? What Kanye said is not false. Kanye is very right when he talk about us being ripped of our identity, us being Black folks mainly, right? Every group knows who they are. The Latinos know who they are. White people know who they are. Asians know who they are. I mean, the list goes on. Everybody knows who they are except us. Even those who, let's say, you have a Latino person who classifies or identifies as white. Even that person knows who they are to a certain extent. Black people, we are the only ones who are confused about this. And I will say this, and I will continue to say, we are the only ones who are confused about our identity. You know why? Because we've been told that we are so many things. We've been told that we were African. We've been told that we were Black American. We've been told that we were Jews. We have been told that we are the real this. And we've been told so many things about our identity. And the thing about it is, this is the thing about it. To me, this is just in my opinion. In my opinion, I think the culture of racial identity changes every I would go on to say every 20 years. And I'm going to tell you why. There are some things that will not change. Your skin tone, skin color, that won't change. You are what you are, period. That's what it is, right? And when I say, I mean that as like that, the skin that you were born into, right? Not, oh, I'm a Black woman or I'm a Black man and I go get with a non-Black person and therefore the skin tone of my children will change, because that does happen. Not that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the skin that you live in right now today, right? Whatever that skin is, that's what you are. All right. That's just how I see it. And you may classify yourself as a Black person, an African American person, or whatever. But at the end of the day, depending on that skin tone will also depend on how you are looked at in society. Regardless, you can be a dark-skinned Asian and be looked at like you are in some places of the world, be looked at as if you were a Black person because of your dark skin. You can be a light-skinned Asian and be looked at and are accepted by white people or the European classification of people because of your white pale skin. So I'm going to just keep it simple, right? I'm going to keep it simple. Now, I do classify and identify as being a Black person. I do know that that's just a title. I know the history and everything like that, but I don't get into that because the reason why I don't get into it is number one, generally and overall speaking, you got children who are born every single day, and they're born into a society that tells them that they are black, white, whatever, and whatever. And if you're going to be able to reach these people, you got to be able to get to them on where they are, meet them where they are. And then once you're able to meet them where they are, after that, you can come into some type of understanding or education. But generally speaking, when somebody says a black man, black woman, we all know what that means, right? We all know what that means, right? And I think that in general terms, I don't think it's wrong to use that term. I don't think it's wrong to use that term. And I'm gonna go even further when I hear people talking about, oh, well, we shouldn't be using that. Well, guess what? Shouldn't you learn how to speak in your native language? Because right now you're speaking English. Right now you're speaking English. I'm speaking English. So on technicality, shouldn't I learn how to speak my quote unquote native language? You really want to get down? I mean, if you really want to get down to it, why are you even speaking to me in English? You speak to me in English because it is a general form of communication that many people use, more specifically right here in America. So you speak that. People who are bilingual, I guarantee you, right here in America, one of the top languages that they learn and want to speak is English. Because it is a general, it doesn't mean that they are English men and women. It just means that they learn the language so that they can communicate. They learn the general, whatever. Now, when they're in their homes or whatever like that, that's a different story. And we all really should be understanding of that. But I feel like people go so far off and so far off the ledge to where it's like, dude, if you want to educate a group of people who for hundreds of years have not been educated or don't know certain things, trying to be blunt and reach them with harshness is not going to. In some cases, yes, but in some cases, no. You really got to find that balance. And for me, that's another thing. It's about balance. But on this note, I'm going to end it because I'm already at 37 minutes. And like I said, I didn't want it to be too long. So I'm going to come back with a part 2. You guys, this will be continued. I hope you enjoyed this segment, and we'll come back with part 2 later today or maybe tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning in. You guys know I love you. I do appreciate you. And until next time, peace.
Say it's a black thing, run deep in the roots. Blacker the berry, baby, the sweeter the juice. I'm trying to get lost, covered in all of your sauce.